Here we are in Fredricksburg in Virginia, and I'm visiting here Sifu Lin of the Akibun Wing Chun system. It's one of my latest discoveries. It's really unique, and Sifu Lin came here from Indonesia, and the system, better let him explain it personally. I will ask him some questions, but it's really one of the most amazing discoveries till now that I found in the Wing Chun world. So yeah, let's go inside.
Since 1985, official. My Supong, Sekong Cantonese, of course. His name is Wing Xiang. I didn't learn directly from him. When I first learned, he was still alive, but I didn't have the opportunity to physically train with him. However, he has passed down the system to many people. Officially, there are about 11 people, 11 grandmasters that teach the Wing system out there to the public. My Sifu, my first and the main Sifu is under Grandmaster Tei Kang Hai, which live in the same city with me, and I was introduced to him by my dad because they have a long relationship in the past. Grandmaster Tei Kang Hai also happened to be my dad's Sifu Chu, as my Supong, which is Suju Wing Xiang, was already very old, even when my dad started to learn. So this is how I got in the system. Later on, I also learned from a couple other grandmaster, basically the one that all the disciple from him. Out of the 11, I learned from 7 of them. One already passed away, and one of them, 2 of them, is actually also a student of my first main Sifu, which is Tei Kang Hai. And their case is very similar to my dad, although they came to his Bukwan to learn, but he was already very old in terms of physically teaching. So for the most part, Grandmaster Tei Kang Hai is the one that conduct all the teaching. So so their name is like Grandmaster Tio Ti Kui and Sing Yan. Both of them are physically learn from Grandmaster Tei Kang Hai because Sujo was already old, and aside from those 3 people, I also learned from the other 4 people in the same time. Of course not. The environment in Indonesia, among the Chinese society, the teaching is pretty much done in a very traditional manner. So even the space that we use is pretty much the living room of the Sifu. None of the Sifu really have like a professional school per se. But even with that being said, they have or they already create hundreds people learning throughout the years. So even if we talk from Suju Wing Xiang generation, his house is nothing. The living room that he used to teach all the people is no bigger than 3 by 4 meters, whatever that is in square foot. So it's very traditional, no uniform, no sass, and that's kind of the environment. Now, personally, when I learned from Grandmaster Tekang Ha and the other 6 Sifu, it's pretty much done on a similar manner. They're all teaching pretty much on their living room. Grandmaster Tekang Ha happened to have a restaurant upstairs. He used to use it for warehouse storage thing. Among some of the place that he put the stuff that he don't use for storage, he divide them, and within that small space we used to train. Every time I finish my school, I hurry up and go home and eat my lunch and went there as fast as I can. The old house that I used to live is also happened to be very close with Grandmaster Tekang Ha Bukuan. So for the most part, I always ride my bicycle. We start sometime in the afternoon, sometimes 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, as early as I can get there. And we pretty much train all day, and the training approach is not like on the modern days. Like even for basic stances, footwork and stuff like that, it's being done for hours before you start doing anything. So usually, for the most part, I don't really finish until 8, 9 o'clock in the evening. And then when the seniors didn't start to come, I deliberately also didn't want to go home because I want to hear all the high-level stuff back then. So by the time I finish everything, there are many countless nights that I stayed there at least until like 11, 12 o'clock, midnight. And then hurry back home. To explain it in a short version of it, basically the system came from Shaolin Temple, and then it was during right after the Manchurian takeover the China. So according to the oral history that passed down to our family line, the system was taught or was developed or built from the ancient thing. And then when the Shaolin got burned down, that's where the early secret societies was born. So some of the lineage, spread out. I believe because of the effort of a couple of forefathers of the system, they made it to Hong Kong. But those are not the only lineage. Ours is coming from the what we call them in English either a black flag or black bandana, one the other. So that's how the system passed down, because the secrecy, so they keep it within the secret society. And one of the chief instructor of the Black Flag secret society back then fled to Indonesia because there was an incident. He chose Indonesia because back then the rumor was his cousin was already settled down in Indonesia, to be exactly in Malang City, and that's where exactly he was headed. And of course, there is no phone or anything to verify that sort of things. Everything's being done by people that take the ship, and the whole visit or journey itself from China to Indonesia back then could take for a couple of weeks, 3 to 4 weeks. So when he arrived to Malang City, it turned out that the rumor was not true. He couldn't find his cousin. During one incident, he was attacked with a large number of people armed with an axe, and he was able to take them down without hurting them. So soon after that, the news spread out to even Surabaya City, which is about an hour and a half away. My grandmaster, which is Sergio heard about what happened. So he went there to approach him, and because he has no place to stay back then, and he was homeless for a couple of days after he arrived. So he took him home, take care of him, basically take care like his own parent, and put him on the upstairs where he lived. And then after 2 years, to repay his kindness, the Chia Fun Chao, the last known chief instructor of the Black Flag, decided to pass down this system to him under Black Oath. Okay. That's how it get to my grandmaster. And then from him, it was passed down to many people, and 11 of them decided to teach. I learned from 6 of them. Originally, because of the secrecy of that he was under the Black Oath, and plus the political situation that was happening in Indonesia with the anti-Chinese law or ban from the Indonesian government back then, he didn't reveal the complete or the full history about the system or the origin. But all of this actually changed after the 1970. That's when he decided to remove the oath, and the newer generation after that, they start to get this information. But unfortunately, some of the older generation, they were still under oath as well. So, it's a fortunate, especially for myself, that I had the opportunity to learn the system and complete. The foundation and the core form, it starts with the Samjianpo, okay? Means 3-bell step, and the Samjianpo, although is the basic, but it's also the core of the system. This is where the student start the journey and finish the journey, and the whole point is all about the detachment. And then they can also start learning the Shaolin Do. It's in Fukinese word. The translation would be little training or first training. We also have a form called Satsi Mui, meaning attacking or killing fourth direction. And then we have Yin Yang Chu, also known as the Hua Kun. That means flowery fish, also known as the Yin Yang Hen. And then we also have a second Samjian form, as well as a third Samjian form, and they work on the different area. And then we have a next form called the Tim Kiao, meaning sinking the bridge. And then we have the Biaoqi, and the last empty hand form would be the Bo Chin. Bo Chin is the wooden man form. Aside from this, we also have a lot of tui ba kiao chu, meaning it's a two men preaching hand that work on the samseng or sing, chit sing, you know, the 3-star, 5-star, 7-star, 9-star preaching hand. And then we have a two-man set. We have cross sticky hand and parallel sticky hand. This is what we call the nyamju. We also have a weapon form such as sangto, means double butterfly sword. And then we also have a pole form. The height is not higher than 1 fist above your head. The pole form is called a patmui kun. It means 8-directional staff method. I think every style, every system, including every Wing Chun, they all have their own uniqueness. So, you know, I can point out some of the uniqueness of Wing Chun, such as the concept of detachment or separation, which is the main fundamental of the Chan Buddhism. So we have what we call the 3 stages of life. So that concept is called Sam Chin Sam Tui, and so basically they are the stages of Xiao Yin Xiao Yang, the separation of a small universe, and then Tai Kai Yang, that's the big universe. And that's where the paradigm of heaven, earth, man, and time, space, energy is all about. The final goal of the Hekibun is reaching toward Phuket, which is translated as emptiness. By the way, some of the terminology that I just said, they're all in Fukinese, as you know, just like we call our system is Hekibun Eng Chun. Eng Chun Kun, that's the Fukinese word of the Wing Chun Kun, which I believe the original term where the system originated from. But of course, Wing Chun has become English, so that's why I also refer that as Black Flag Wing Chun, so people can understand what is HKP Eng Chun. Well, I believe Hekibun Wing Chun have its own uniqueness, and I believe this would bring a lot of benefit to many people in the world. Aside from that, this is also one of the few leftover ancient Chinese system that still survive. So my main mission is really to preserve and spread it to the next generation. And what I'm working on right now is to create more trees in the forest.